Hey team, Coach Tickety here. It's been a long time since we've seen any additions to the support lineup, and Kiriko feels like a breath of fresh air in Overwatch 2. In this video, we'll be breaking down her kit, talking about her strengths when it comes to her playstyle, and figuring out when it's best to pick the Fox Spirit wielding Guardian of Kamizaka. Starting with her kit overview. Her primary fire is her Healing Ofuda. This shoots out healing talismans which will seek out their targets and heal for 13 per talisman hit. They fire in 2-round bursts though, so you can think of it as 26 per hit instead, up to a maximum of 130 when the full clip is fired. These do have a maximum travel range of about 35 meters, and they do act as a projectile, meaning they will collide with terrain and enemy barriers. This will lock on to your target and the projectiles will turn yellow if your crosshair is close enough to their model, but will be blue otherwise, which will still heal, but your allies will need to move into them to benefit from them. The Healing Ofuda has relatively low healing output. Add on the travel time and potential to miss your targets and it can feel very weak. Kiriko's healing alone will not be enough to keep allies up from a lot of direct pressure. Think of it more like a targeted pocket heal to keep allies topped up rather than to heal them in burst situations. By default in the settings, this is on toggle, meaning one press of your primary fire will shoot the entire clip, but it can be changed to hold instead to control when you interrupt the healing to cast other abilities. Kiriko's secondary fire is her kunai. This fires a fast-moving projectile that will deal 40 damage, but has a 3 times headshot multiplier, which means 120 damage to the head. This is unlike most heroes in the game, which only get a 2 times headshot multiplier. These projectiles travel slightly slower than Zenyatta's orb, and seem to have a slightly smaller hitbox as well. This is a very difficult projectile to hit, especially into the head. You'll have most success at closer to mid ranges to make sure you're able to track your targets in close range without needing to lead the projectile too much, but it'll still require strong mechanics in order to do meaningful damage by hitting those headshots. Other than that, make sure to keep your crosshair at head height when shooting at range for ult charge or for poke damage. Because of the precise nature of the kunai shots versus the somewhat forgiving hitbox of the Healing Ofuda, I would recommend swapping your primary and secondary fire keybinds on Kiriko so you can have more control over the kunai on primary fire and use secondary fire for the healing instead. Kiriko's first ability is her Swift Step. This allows her to teleport to an ally within 35 meters and has a 7-second cooldown. This can travel through walls and will place you directly next to your ally from the direction you're coming from. It has a very fast cast time, but still can be interrupted, and has very brief invulnerability after the teleport, which means you can use it to avoid damage from things like Diva Bomb, or use it to cleanse effects on yourself like burn damage. This has a relatively short cooldown for such a strong movement and defensive tool. Don't be afraid to use it to position before a teamfight, but make sure that you do have it for emergency situations. This is an almost guaranteed get-out-of-jail-free tool if you are getting in an aggressive position, as long as you have it available and you've got an ally in range. And of course, it's also useful to get to an ally in distress to help heal them up or help them finish their targets. Kiriko's second ability is her Protection Suzu. This will throw a projectile that splashes somewhat similarly to Ana's Biotic Grenade, and will apply Intangibility for 0.75 seconds on a 14-second cooldown. Note I mentioned Intangibility, not Invulnerability here. This has different properties than things like Baptiste's Immortality Field. You can think of this closer to the state Reaper's in when he's using Wraith, or Moira when she uses Fade. It will make your allies and yourself untargetable by enemies and cleanse most negative effects. Notable effects that won't be cleansed are those that will lock heroes out of movement specifically, for example Junkrat's Trap, Sigma's Flux, or Zarya's Grav. In addition to all of that, the Suzu will also heal allies for 50 HP and will boot back nearby enemies slightly. You'll want to use the Suzu to deny deaths as often as possible. Don't force yourself to hold onto it until your entire team is on the verge of elimination. The cooldown isn't as long as something like Baptiste's Immortality Field, and it should be used to turn engagements whenever possible, even on individual teammates or yourself when necessary. That said, of course, there will be plenty of key moments where you'll want to have it saved, for example during an enemy's Sombra's EMP, Junker Queen's Rampage, Reinhardt's Shatter, etc. When using this ability, it's often best to use it reactively rather than proactively. Because of the small window of intangibility, you don't want to use it too early and just have the enemy apply negative effects after it's already on cooldown. Kiriko's ultimate is Kitsune Rush.
Let the Kitsune guide you.
This will cast a path forward that applies multiple buffs to Kiriko and her teammates for 10 seconds. You'll gain 300% cooldown regeneration rate, meaning your cooldowns will regenerate at 3 times normal speed, 50% move speed, 25% fire rate, and a 50% increased reload speed. Kitsune Rush's path will be stopped by terrain, which includes things like Mei's Ice Wall and Cryo Freeze. There are also a few inconsistencies with this cooldown reduction. Notably, Zarya's Bubbles and Baptiste's Immortality Field will not benefit from the cooldown reduction. This ultimate has incredible synergy with almost every character in the game, but the most important benefits will come from the damage increase from faster primary fires and the strong defensive cooldown reduction. Some characters like Reaper will double dip by benefiting from the shotgun attack speed and reload speed, but will also benefit from a reduced cooldown on Wraith. Other characters will simply explode with damage, like Bastion or Zenyatta with the increased fire rate alone. And usually squishy heroes will find themselves with incredible options, like Tracer with a decreased blink and recall cooldowns, or Genji with multiple casts of dash and deflect. Overall, this is an incredible teamfighting tool. The closest comparison I can put it to in the game currently would be Brigitte's Rally, but on steroids. Your team needs to be somewhat grouped, and the enemy needs to be within striking distance to get the most offensive benefit, but once the ball is rolling, your entire team will feel unstoppable. And finally, Kiriko's passive is Wall Climb. She'll be able to climb up walls by holding the jump key, similar to Hanzo or Genji. Unlike Hanzo or Genji, however, Kiriko has no mid-air jump capabilities, which makes her feel a little bit awkward if you're used to playing the Shimada Bros. Kiriko's wall climb should be used as often as needed to find your creative angles aggressively, and you can purposefully position near walls to high grounds as an extra defensive movement option. Alright, with her kit out of the way, let's talk about Kiriko's playstyle. Let's start with talking about her damage breakpoints. It's a little bit awkward to hit Kiriko's breakpoints with her damage alone. You'll need 2 headshots back to back, which is very hard to hit consistently, to do 240 damage and kill most squishy targets. Alternatively, you can hit a headshot and 2 body shots for 200 damage exactly, which is good if enemies have no incoming healing. You can also hit a headshot plus melee, which will do exactly 150 damage, which can be good for dispatching enemy tracers. Since your individual damage is a little bit underwhelming unless you're hitting repeat headshots throughout a team fight, you'll want to add your damage to an allied DPS or tank rather than look for solo kills too often. You should think of Kiriko as a tool to augment existing opportunities rather than create your own too aggressively. This way of finding damage will keep you overall safer and give yourself and your allies more consistent pressure. When you are looking for engagements, try to work off angles with ally flankers or even just by yourself by keeping Swift Step as an escape tool. Use that wall climb to get creative options around the map, and don't be afraid to position alone as long as you have your cooldowns available. If you are working with a flanker, any 2v1 opportunities that you can find should be capitalized on as soon as possible. If you do force enemies to push you out of the flank, you should be somewhat uncatchable as long as your team is within range for Swift Step. This can help buy time for your DPS and potentially waste enemy resources if they commit to you. Other than those positions in neutral, you'll want to, of course, play for Kitsune Rush for harder engages. Because of the strong teamfight potential of this ultimate, you'll want to position as grouped as possible with as many allies as you can, and you'll want to try and catch enemies in positions where they have fewer escape options. For example, after they've moved past a choke point or around a corner. As with any aggressive ult usage, make sure you're aware of the enemy's defensive options before you commit everything. But even if you do use everything, as long as you stay in the rush aura, you'll get your resources back very quickly. So now let's talk about when it's best to pick Kiriko in your games. Overall, I would say Kiriko can synergize with almost anyone, but her playstyle will change based on what types of characters she's playing for. She will of course synergize with aggressive and highly mobile heroes, such as Genji, Sombra, Tracer, Reaper, Winston, or Lucio, so she can move around the map and create 2v1 opportunities whenever possible. But she'll also synergize well with consistent heroes who like to play main angles, such as Soldier, Hanzo, Zarya Sigma, or even Ana and Baptiste. This will give her a strong defensive option when working the map, since they'll usually be in a good position to Swift Step to, which means she'll be able to work the flank on her own and create more aggressive teamfight opportunities. In terms of enemy heroes, Kiriko will be strongest against those that are slow-moving and predictable. Think heroes like Ashe, Widowmaker, Sigma, Roadhog, Ana, or Zen. She'll of course be able to outmaneuver a lot of characters with her Swift Step alone, but this means that she'll be a lot harder to deal with when she's working on the flank. The only characters I would say Kiriko would find herself weak against would be those that could out-duel her on the flank, so we're looking at heroes with higher burst damage and better mobility than her. Characters like Genji, Tracer, Sombra, Wrecking Ball, Winston, or Lucio. Other than that, just make sure you're keeping track of what enemy effects you'll be looking to cleanse with your Protection Suzu. There are obvious opportunities for cleansing things like Reinhardt's Shatter, Mei's Blizzard, Ana's Biotic Grenade, and so on. Whenever you're looking at the enemy team, make sure you keep tabs on what the most important cooldowns you're looking to counter are, and to make sure you have Suzu available for those opportunities. In terms of what maps Kiriko will like, she'll obviously enjoy flank routes to get aggressive and find creative angles mid-fight. She'll enjoy mid to short sightlines to make getting in range to hit her projectiles easier, but long sightlines can be manageable given enough flanking opportunities. She'll want to use verticality to abuse wall climb and give herself more defensive options. Overall, I would also say she likes moving objective type maps, which will make it easier to maneuver because of the evolving space around the map, and allow her to be more unpredictable with the way she approaches the enemy. Maps like Paraíso and Dorado come to mind as they offer great opportunities for Kiriko to thrive with ample high grounds and strong flank routes. Alright, and now for my overall thoughts, is Kiriko a strong character? Are we going to see her played in the Overwatch League? I think she is absolutely one of the highest skill ceiling heroes we've seen released in a long time. This character seems entirely dependent on your ability to hit important headshots when the time comes to it, otherwise you might be finding more consistent value with heroes that simply apply damage amplification, such as Zenyatta with his Discord Orb, or are safer options in general like Moira or Lucio. But with that said, assuming you are able to hit the shots and you're able to synergize well with teammates who are looking to go aggressive, I think Kiriko can be a fantastic pick to solo carry games, and all the way up into coordinated play can be an explosive playmaker. Add on top to all of that how strong her ultimate is for team fighting, I can see her being a staple pick in a lot of situations. Kiriko does seem a little overkitted, but she's definitely gated by skill and availability to hit your shots and manage your cooldowns. But I expect we'll see a lot of her in coordinated play, and we're going to see the pros absolutely pop off with this character. If you're looking to pick up Kiriko for your ranked games, make sure you know how to find your opportunities and make sure that you're able to capitalize on them as well by hitting your shots. Otherwise, you'll find more consistency with almost any other support in the cast. I'd like to thank Questline Esports for helping me produce this video. Be sure to check out their channel for more Overwatch content, including our show The High Ground, link in the description below. But that's going to be all from me today, team. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps you build your understanding of everyone's new favorite support hero, Kiriko. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite interactions or team compositions have been with the new hero. Personally, I've been loving 2v1ing people as Genji Kiriko on the flank in all my quick play games, but I can't wait to bring her into comp. I'll see you guys in the next one.